Hi, I am Lionel Sanchez, Assistant Professor at the Department of Architecture of the University of San Carlos. For this presentation, I will be talking an introduction on interior landscaping. Frank Duffy's 1974 thesis on office planning might be interpreted as a component of a trend such as the design methodologies movement, which aim to further integrate architecture with other fields, particularly technology and the social sciences. In adapting specialized knowledge from other disciplines for use in the architectural design process, this tendency challenged the Beaux-Arts idea of the architect as a professional generalist form giver, assuming instead a continual reevaluation of the architect's role in society in light of specialized knowledge, technological change, the changing needs of clients, and so on. Duffy's thesis, for example, proposes a model that blurs the distinction between architect and management consultant. The second tendency, which mostly won out in architectural schools, brought about a broad shift in architectural discourse around the idea of the disciplinary autonomy of architecture. So, often associated with postmodernism, this shift brought with it a profound reformation and reformulation of what would constitute architecture theory, and subsequently effective fundamental changes in architectural pedagogy and in the organization of schools themselves. So Robert L. Geddes, who had become the first dean of the Princeton School of Architecture and Urban Planning, said, and I quote, "We understand today how the changing of any part of our environment affects and interacts with every aspect of that environment, so no decision about the physical design is wholly independent. That is why this design has chosen to deal with education for environmental design rather than separately with architecture, engineering, planning, or any other traditional disciplines. As our knowledge grows of the way that the work of the traditional disciplines must always interact in the real world, it becomes difficult to put the educational problems of these disciplines in separate compartments." End of quote. From the beginning of his investigation, Duffy was astounded by the scarcity of systematic research on the space planning, and both in terms of how well the workplace functions and the seeming lack of innovation in office design at that level. He learned about office landscaping from brutalist architect Rainer Banham. So this is Rainer Banham. So it's one paragraph article in the Architectural Review, which presented a novel form of office layout originating in Germany called Bürolandschaft. So Bürolandschaft, or office landscape, emphasizes the ideas of liberty and self-governance, enabling staff members to select the optimal location and methods for completing tasks, such as activity-based uh, workspaces. Workers are free to select the kind of workspace that best meets their requirements and increases output. The rules allowed for varying degrees of privacy and openness, and the ambient acoustics were carefully modulated through carpeting, acoustical ceilings, and the absence of interior walls. The planning process involved a detailed study of office work requirements and organizational hierarchy. Practitioners include management consultants and designers, incorporating American managerial ideas from Germany after World War II. Uh, Duffy, who visited Bürolandschaft offices in Germany, wrote a full article for Architectural Review, which appeared in the February 1964 issue. Harry Semak of Unbar Publications, a small press that listed quote unquote organization, management, and methods as its area of expertise, commissioned Duffy shortly after the publication of this article to write a brief monograph on Bureau Landschaft. The monograph would be published in 1966 as Office Landscaping, a new approach to office planning. This publication would be collected through the social sciences, which would yield quote unquote applied research that is useful and that is not too difficult or expensive, and that is conducted within the framework of a model of relationship between job, worker, and building. In 1964, Duffy would devise a pattern language, both a methodology for integrating empirical social science into design and a potential theoretical defense of the office landscape. Geddes describes the late 60s and the early 70s as a time of great rapport between the social sciences and architecture. While it would be formulated in the language of social science, Duffy held that the research had to be, quote, the research had to be relevant to topical issues which are of practical importance to architects and designers, end of quote. So rather than seeking cause and effect type relationships, he sought to demonstrate through case studies a quote unquote a relationship between people and buildings. In addition, the relative permanence of architecture to the constantly changing demands of program means, quote, a gap will inevitably occur between developing requirements and the residual long-lasting building shell, end of quote. So ultimately, architecture is a synthetic act that encompasses several disciplines and influences and cannot be reduced to just one. Architectural theory should include social sciences and technical fields to consider cultural precedents in light of economic or technological change. This shift towards critical theory may be progressive, opening new research lines in the social and political role of architecture. However, it may also be reactive to external changes, such as neoliberal government policy and privatization, which have damaged post-war urban planning and subsequently made it difficult for architects to consider solutions to urban problems. In today's globalized and technologically driven architecture production, a reevaluation of the role of social sciences in architecture theory is necessary, with a focus on architectural issues among social scientists. Thank you very much for listening and hope you have a nice day.